Firefighters in New York had a tough time overnight as they were battling a fire in an aging 6-story apartment building. Residents were waiting on fire escapes to be rescued as firefighters rolled up.
So firefighters say the building had just one staircase and fire was racing up that staircase from the first floor to the roof. 3 people died, 12 more were sent to the hospital. This comes as D.C. Council consider changing building codes in the district, removing a long-standing requirement that mid-rise buildings have 2 stairwells.
The One Front Door Act is billed as a way to help increase housing availability. But when the News 4 team and reporter Ted Oberg looked into it, they found some experts with serious safety concerns.
On a recent morning, D.C. firefighters were training in Southeast, raising their aerial ladder against a 3-story building under construction. Next to parked cars and precariously close to that power line, the ladder barely rose to the 3rd-floor window.
Fully extended, right?
And there was no more ladder to raise. You're maxed out at 3 stories here. What if you put another 3 stories on top?
Yeah, if you put another 3 stories on top of this building, we're not going to be able to reach it with our aerial ladder.
Keep in mind, that's the longest ladder D.C. firefighters have. As it is today, any D.C. building over 3 stories needs a second stairwell. It's been that way in the district for several decades. A bill under consideration now would eliminate that requirement. The safety concerns from fire officials aren't surprising.
I totally understand the concern. In fact, that was my first question when we started talking about this bill.
But since introducing D.C.'s One Front Door bill, D.C. Councilmember Brianne Nadeau says she's convinced fire safety has advanced far enough to make a second stairwell in buildings up to 6 stories unnecessary.
I feel very comfortable that with modern day fire suppression and building code that exists currently, we're not doing anything risky here.
D.C.'s Department of Buildings boss testified to D.C. Council this reform does not represent a step backward in safety. Adding new multi-unit residential buildings are among the safest residential structures in the country. And Nadeau says taking out the space a second stairwell uses could lower costs and increase available square footage, helping D.C. families.
The One Front Door Act is going to create more housing across the District of Columbia.
How much? The bill and its supporters don't say, and it doesn't force builders to eliminate that second stairwell, but offers them a choice, which could save developers more than $200,000 in construction costs.
That does nothing for us if all the occupants in that 3-bedroom unit can't get out safely in the event of a fire.
It's not a trade-off some firefighters who have to make these rescues think is wise. Their international union and the Metropolitan Fire Chiefs Association both oppose the bill and similar versions in cities and states across the country where it's come up. For them, it's not just about the height, but the small space, too. Opponents of the bill pointing out concerns that as residents run down a single stairwell in a fire, firefighters with hoses and tanks are running up.
We believe everyone needs access to housing, but it should be safe housing, and we should not be removing safety features such as a second stairwell in order to accomplish one goal. We'd be creating an additional risk.
It all brings us back to that 3-story building and the ladder that couldn't get any higher.
How can you put any kind of trade-off on money versus human lives, right?
If passed by council tomorrow and signed by the mayor, the change in D.C. would apply to new buildings. It wouldn't necessarily retrofit older ones to remove a second stairwell. It's important to point out that deadly fire in New York was in a decades-old building. New York City, by the way, one of several American cities that has already made this change. Seattle is another, others considering it. The state of Connecticut passed similar legislation in 2024, but after meeting with fire safety officials, lawmakers repealed it this year. Erica,
see what the council has to say about it tomorrow. Ted Oberg,
absolutely.
live for us in the studio. Ted, thank you.
Thanks, Ted.